Anyway, so what do you want to talk about? So,
well, we had some comments about people.
Comments.
Yeah.
So we've had some comments of people saying that, you know, the 4AGE, it's like an obsolete motor. I know that my 4A on the dyno, my 7A on the dyno made 180 horsepower, and I have a lot of people sort of saying that, like, the amount of money that you spent to get that power level out of that engine, why didn't you just go beams? Or why didn't you go K-series?
Yeah.
I even had someone say,
this is a good one.
a 1J, a NA 1J makes, what was it, 200, 250 horsepower or something?
Yeah, which it doesn't.
And I was like, why don't you just put a 1J in there and it's standard and it would last? And
yeah.
But like, I like 4AG. Ever since I first got into 8.6s or, you know, motors, the 4AGE's always just been a motor that I've had just a genuine love for. Like, I just like the engine.
Well, let's address the reason that we like. Well, I like 4As, right? Okay, yeah. I'm going to address the reason. Someone says to me, "Oh, why didn't you just go beams?" It's like, okay, well, the engine's physically larger in the engine bay. It's massive. Like,
we were actually talking about this on the phone, and then during our phone conversation, we were like, "Save it. We're just going to talk about this.
We'll talk about this on video because."
But the thing is, like, I've said the same thing to you. I've seen beams in 8.6s, and I like it. Like, it's a hot motor. It's a great engine.
They look great.
They look awesome. But I like them in someone else's car. Like, it's great when someone else has it, but it's not for me.
Yeah.
For me, if it's going to be my own personal car, it's going to be a 4A. Or for now, anyway. I never know what happens in the future. But but I do like beams. You like them as well. But
yeah, they're great engine. I've built a few of them. They're great.
They're great engines. And the thing is, like, I just don't like how they look in the engine bay. It sits high. I see a lot of people have to cut the frame out of their bonnet to make it fit and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, if that's what you're happy to do and stuff, that's great. And that does,
the oil systems in them are terrible.
It sounds great. It sounds like when you've got throttles on there,
they sound amazing.
It's like a beautiful sounding engine too.
I mean, and like you say, they are from factory, a 2-litre engine, so they've got cubic inch on their sides. They've got twin variable cam timing, exhaust and intake, so they've got good tech. They've got really good trigger patterns on them. They're a great engine. I love them, but and this is the but, they are physically larger in size. The gearboxes are weak as glass, so the 6-speed beams, the 6-speed manual gearbox, they spit 6th gear off the shafts unless you do a mod to them, a circlip mod, and they spit the gears off the shaft, and then the 2 gears actually fall into the gearbox and they self-implode. So you've got to spend a fortune on them, and that happens when you shift fast. I think it's from 2nd to 3rd. The gear stack on the shift forks actually breaks the factory circlip, and 6th gear jumps off into the gearbox, which destroys the gearbox. So you've got to modify the gearbox. I think the modification's a few $1,000s worth. Wow. So, like,
but like what I was trying to make clear is, it's like, we like all engines. We like these engines. We love them, but it's just not what we've chosen to work with. Like, for yourself, like, there's no reason why you're going to spend all this money on a 4A and 1.6 litre 4A when you could put a K series in there.
K-swap, yeah.
And, you know, like, easily make the power.
Yeah.
But why don't you? Why didn't you put a K series in the K70?
Well, because I've had this engine in the car for years. Like, it's just because it's what's already in there. If I wanted to K-swap the car, I've got to make engine mounts, I've got to do sump conversions, I've got to make a gearbox conversion, and a lot of the guys that are using the K-swaps, they're using in rear-wheel drive application, they're using an S2000 gearbox, and I can't remember with the S2000 gearbox, I think you have to do a cut and shut on it, so you actually have to cut the bell housing and weld it. I don't like that. If I was going to do it, I'd make a steel bell housing that suits a proper rear-wheel drive gearbox that has a interchangeable bell housing. So that personally is one of the hurdles that you've got to go through. So you have to make a lot of modifications, and yes, okay, the initial buy price of the K series is quite cheap, but it's all the supporting stuff you've got to do to get it to the level that you want it to run. Like, I mean, yeah, it's man, I like all engines. I've, like, in the comments we had a guy ask, and I said, mate, I like all engines. Why 4A? Just because I just like the engine. I like all engines. If you actually look at the collection of engines I have at home, I've got Honda B series, K series,
you've got a shelf full of them.
SR20 VE. Like, I love all engines if they're cool.
I remember growing up and having the same conversation with multiple people, and that, like, I've always thought, you know, why can't I make a 4A make power? Why can't it make, like, if, you know, everyone seemed to be, back in the day, an SR20 swap was a big thing in sprinters.
Cheap.
It was
That's
cheap.
why it was cheap.
But they were a proven motor too. Like, that people would always make big power in the SR20s. Like,
yes and no, yeah.
But like,
big power back then was 220 kilowatts at the wheels,
but
and
like,
easy done in an SR20.
I never really, well, we never spoke back then, but
yeah,
it was quite common for people to just get, well, they would always say, I had bad luck with my 4A. Like, I keep blowing up 4As, and then I went SR20, and now it works, you know, or whatever it is. But I always thought in my head, I don't understand why you can't just build a good 4A. Why can't you just make one that just works?
Yeah.
And the answer is you can. You totally can, you know.
Can,
so
yeah.
that was always my mindset, was like, I like this engine. I want to build one the way I like.
Yeah.
And I'd rather keep one. So,
like you say, I mean, it's not like it's a secret. The pack, they've been developing these engines since the Formula cars, like the Formula Atlantics chose 4A because they were a tiny engine that had a really good centerline for gravity, for weight. Toyota, they're readily available from Toyota. They came in so many different cars all around the planet, and they're a robust, sturdy engine. I mean, people are funny. Like, they say, oh, the 4As aren't, you know, reliable. Like, I don't know if I've heard many people say they're not reliable. Like, it's very rare for a 4A to break, and if you're breaking it,
the guys that I've seen break 4As constantly, I don't walk around telling them what to do or anything, but I have seen a lot of 4As break where they have got like a carby set up instead of an EFI setup.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know because I wasn't there when they broke or anything, but my initial thought is, was it tuned properly? Was it running lean? Is that why
the piston's melting? Yeah,
so
was it breaking crankshafts in half?
It's an easy and cheap way to put throttles on a car, is by, like, if you've got a 16 valve, just get dual Weber carbs on there.
Yeah.
But you need to know how to
tune them.
Yeah. And then, like, you always talk about the atmosphere, depending on like what how high you are from sea level.
Barometric correction.
You have to change jets around depending on what track you're at, and you need to, you know,
if you want it perfection.
Right.
Yeah.
So with EFI, you kind of, if
the ECU does it for you.
If you've got a good tuner and you've got a good setup, it fixes that problem, and you can just drive your car. So I think that's a big problem, is people, well, you know, whenever I see people destroy 4As, they always try and do things on the cheap. They don't spend the money where it counts for reliability. It's trying to get the thing running and thrash it, and then when it breaks,
they blame the motor.
And then it's, oh, I'm just going to get a K series. I'm going to, whatever it is, I'm going to put a more modern motor in that's more readily available and cheaper or whatever.
Yeah, but how many of those guys actually follow through with those projects?
Right. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So like, I mean, I've seen where they break crankshafts in half, 4As.
Okay.
And I've never broken a crankshaft. None of my customers or mates' engines have ever broken a crankshaft in half, because one of the big things that I am a massive fan of is harmonic dampers. Harmonic dampers are the one biggest thing you need on a 4A, because if you don't run one and you run one of those eBay lightweight alloy pulleys, you're going to break your crankshaft in half. I've seen them where they wind the bolts out. The oil pump bolts have wound out, hit the timing belt, shredded it, and then the motor flies to pieces because the valves get punched by the pistons, and then the valves, if they're strong enough, they break the camshaft into pieces, and you lose the whole engine because you didn't put a harmonic damper on it, or you didn't Loctite the bolts in the oil pump.
I agree with you there. Like, it's sort of, for you and I, it's like you need a damper. It's not even a question of whether or not you should, but it's just like a good quality harmonic damper is so important for us. But the trap that a lot of people fall into is those little alloy pulleys that are anodized red or orange or whatever.
They look pretty.
They look good, and they're not even that expensive. It's like, why are you going to go ahead and buy a BHJ or an ATI or something for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, when you can just spend a couple $100, $150 on a alloy one?
Yeah.
And the alloy one is advertised as a lightweight pulley, and you know, it'll rev up quicker because it's got a lightweight pulley, and it's like,
well, that's not the job of that harmonic damper. You're trying to dampen the harmonics that the engine creates. When you don't, you fall into first, second, and third wave harmonics, which tears engines to pieces.
So it's a common mistake, but it's also an easy mistake to make if you don't know, because you don't want to, you know, you're trying to save money. You don't want to. Yeah. You don't want to just be, you know, doing silly things.
Yeah.
But if you don't know, it's quite easy to make that mistake.
Easy.
So, yeah, like, you know, the no to alloy
pulleys. Yeah.
no.
One of the things you never buy is an alloy pulley for the crankshaft.
I'd
Always
probably
put a harmonic damper.
You could put one on if you were going to turn an engine into a coffee table or something, you could put one on there.
Yeah.
Maybe, but other than that, I wouldn't be.
I'd never run one ever.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even tell my worst enemy to put one on their engine.
Yeah.
Maybe I would.
So, anyway, there was that comment of the guy saying I should have put a 1J in the...
That's insane because one, it's a 6-cylinder engine, 2.5 litre, and it makes barely more horsepower than yours. And
but it's standard.
How much does it weigh?
No, but it's standard.
Oh.
So you don't have to spend money on pistons and valves and shit. So that, but like what I wanted to do, I just wanted to address the comment because I don't think he was. I don't want to try to put anyone down or anything. But yes, I have seen people do 1J conversions in 8.6s, but they're so long. The engine, it just doesn't fit. You know, like people,
and it's heavy, so it puts the center of the.
It's
the
like a boat.
out.
You're putting a big boat anchor in the front of the car, and the car will handle completely differently.
Terribly.
So, I have seen people do it, and they make good power with like a turbo 1J, not an aspirated one. And I just don't like it. It's one of those things that I'd probably never do. Actually, have you seen that guy that put 1Js or whatever in his K70, but he set them right back in the engine bay?
Yeah. I've seen
so it's like you could pretty much touch the engine here. That's okay, but they're like dedicated drift cars.
Yeah. So, but think if you wanted to do that in your car, the fabrication you'd need to do it, and how
you'd never
hard
get
it would be to engineer it.
You'd never get it registered.
It'd be very difficult. So, and then when you want to service the spark plugs, you've got to pull the dash out of it because you've got to get to the spark plug. Like
that's a big
what's
thing.
The point of that?
That's a big thing you and I have spoken about a lot. Is if you go up like your displacement in your engine, if you increase it too much, you can't just do a owner certified modification. So here in Australia, you can only increase the capacity of the motor. I think it's for a 4A, you can only do 200 cc's. You can't put like a 2 litre in there without getting it engineered.
Yes, because you've gone up too big in percentage wise from the original engine cubic inch output.
So if I do an SR20, now I have to go through engineering, and it's a really, really big headache for us here in Australia. Whereas a 7A being 1.8, you know,
coming from 1.6,
and it's a similar family of engines.
It's the same family. So essentially, the factory engine mounts they work. So with engineering, what happens here in Australia is you need to get an engineer, a structural mechanical engineer who actually has to certify that the modifications to the engine mounts have been done in accordance with Australian design standards, which is a fancy way of saying if the welds are terrible, it's going to break. So really,
but with my engine,
it's all factory
engine
mounts.
Factory. The factory head bolts on. You can put factory intake exhaust on. So it's a straight swap. Same family of engine, and I can just get the engine numbers changed over, you know, through someone that can do blue slips. And it's all legal. It's a simple, straightforward swap. So that's what we like.
Yeah, we've just pulled up now.
Yeah, we've got to go. So we're going to keep trying to do more of these videos where we sort of talk about things.
If you want to hear, leave a comment in the comments below, and we'll address. And we watch them, we look at them all. We'll address them all. We'll respond to you if you ask questions.
We were really happy with the response to the last one, and you know, we did ask you guys a few questions about what you think about. What did we ask last time? We asked a few.
What's better, 20 valve or 60?
That's right. Yeah, we asked what was better, and you guys responded, and you gave us a great response to that video. So let us know in the comments. Let us know what you think, and you know, subscribe, hit the like button.
Ask questions. We'll respond. I like every single one of the comments, good or bad. So leave a comment. I'll respond. If you've got a question, I'll respond to you. If you just want to make a statement, do that. It's cool, guys. We'll catch you in the next.
Cool. See you next time.